Hi, True Crime family. I'm Manju and welcome back to my channel, where we talk about true crime cases from around the world. Today we're going to be traveling to Russia. This is a heartbreaking case, and before we begin, I want to ask, what is the role of your father in your life? More importantly, what is the role of a father in a daughter's life? To hold her hand, to be her first Prince Charming, to protect her? But what if you needed protection from your father? That is what happened to these three sisters, and why over 400,000 people signed a petition for the release of the sisters after they killed their father. On July 27, 2018, the police received a frantic phone call from a young girl named Angelina. She reported her father had attacked her under the influence of a heavy dose of sedatives and that she had killed him in self-defense. The police came and saw the body had multiple stab wounds to the neck, arms, and torso. The sisters were arrested for the murder and held in a women's reprimand prison in southeast Moscow. During the investigation, it was revealed that the day of the murder, the father, Mikhail, called his daughters, Christina, Angelina, and Marie, one by one into his room and got mad at them because the flat was not cleaned properly and sprayed pepper gas in their faces. According to the girls, that was the last straw, and the girls attacked the father once he fell asleep. Allegedly, Angelina used a hammer, Maria used a hunting knife, and Christina the pepper spray. After they killed their father, they called the police and they were arrested. The sisters confessed to the killings, and according to their lawyers and the Russian Prosecutor General's office, mentioned that they had endured years of sexual and physical and emotional abuse from their father. The girls had confessed that they used the knife to slash themselves to make it look like there was abuse from the father prior to the killing, and they killed him due to self-defense. Throughout the investigation, it was discovered that the family had an extensive history of violence. The father regularly beat up his daughters over the past 3 years, torturing them and keeping them as prisoners and sexually abusing them. He also had history of torturing his wife and their eldest son. Now, once the investigation had started, Mikhail's two sisters made it known and claimed that the young girls were scheming, ungrateful daughters who killed their father because they wanted his money and didn't want to move to Israel once the girls had turned 18. As the investigation continued, the lawyers and the investigators began to piece together the family history. It became clear that it was more than a cold-blooded murder. Over hundreds of pages of court documents and transcripts of the witness testimony and pictures emerged, which proved the accusation of routine sexual abuse, beatings, humiliation, and death threats were true. In the years before Mikhail's death, he liked to take regular pilgrimages to Israel. During a police interrogation the day after his murder, a transcript provided by Angelina's attorney said that she mentioned that her father first sexually assaulted her while the two were on holiday in Israel in November 2014, and that he has subjected her to various forms of sexual harassment ever since. The acts took place in the bedroom behind a closed door. This is a quote from the transcript. He regularly told us that sex outside of marriage is a sin, but because we are blood related and his daughters, he can do with us as he wishes and we should submit ourselves. In leaked WhatsApp messages, Mikhail often threatened Angelina with sexual violence. In 2018, while he was on a pilgrimage in Israel, he threatened to rape both his daughters and his estranged wife just because he heard Angelina wasn't home as he instructed. 3 months later, he sent her many disgusting voicemails, which were submitted to the court. The voicemails were, "You'll be sucking endlessly, Angelina, and if you leave, I'll find you." 3 minutes later, he sent another one. "I'll beat you for everything. I'll kill you. Leave, leave. Don't drive me to sin. You are all prostitutes and you will die as prostitutes." Mikhail also sexually assaulted his other 2 daughters as well. According to the official investigation, he also enslaved them. The daughters said, "We served him in the home, ironing, cleaning, cooking for him, and giving him food when he asked. Maria said to her police interview if the sisters fell short of his expectations or if he just lost his temper, he would attack them. Mikhail was highly superstitious and he banned his family from saying certain everyday words in his presence, believing it would bring bad luck. He installed a camera right outside of the apartment to record his children coming and going out of the home and who would actually enter the home. When the police searched the home, they found and confiscated a hammer, a knife, 2 air guns, a crossbow, a rubber bullet handgun, a revolver, a hunting rifle, 16 cartridges, and 16 spears. In Mikhail's car, they found business cards displaying the logo of Russia's Federal Security Service, FSB, and listing him as an employee. Investigators did look into this card, and they declared that the cards were fake. While speaking with the neighbors, they indicated Mikhail had friends in the Moscow police and prosecutor's office. Allegedly, he constantly bragged about his connections, and because of this, the sisters had no choice. It was either suffer and do nothing or go to the police, who would eventually report it back to Mikhail, which would lead to another beating. The sisters were tired of living a life like this, but were afraid to turn to anyone for help because of the connections he had everywhere. Maria and Angelina also spoke about an incident that happened in 2016. The 3 sisters were on vacation with their father in a resort on Russia's Black Sea coast. Christina ran out of the room where she had been alone with her father. She swallowed a handful of pills in a suicide attempt and had to be rushed to the hospital. Maria and Angelina said it was the fear of Christina attempting suicide again that drove them to take matters in their own hands. About a month prior to the killing, Christina messaged a friend via WhatsApp and mentioned how her father threatened to rape her and how she couldn't take it anymore. Now, with all of this pain, violence, abuse, the inability to find help, the threat to their lives, you can understand the state the sisters were in and why they had to take this step. Mikhail drove them to this state, and the moment he began to commit these crimes, he stopped being their father. Now you may all be wondering, where is the mother in this entire situation? At the time of the murder, the mother was not living with them, and the father had forbidden his daughters from contacting her. The girl's mother also suffered beatings and abuse from the father in the past. She had approached the police before, but there was no evidence that the police acted on any of these appeals for help. This is the mother, Aurelia. She met Mikhail in Moscow in 1996, which was 2 years after she immigrated with her parents from Moldova. She was 17 and Mikhail was 35. Mikhail was from an Armenian family that had left the former Soviet Republic of Azerbaijan in 1988 in hopes to eventually immigrate to the US, but that never worked out. He then joined the Russian army for a bit and then became the local racketeer. Merchants opening up stores and small businesses in his part of the town would pay cash for his protection. Aurelia and Mikhail dated for several months after they first met, but eventually broke it off because Mikhail became violent and started threatening her family. He eventually forced her to return to him through threats, which accumulated in him locking Aurelia in his apartment after she attended a New Year's Eve party which he hosted. Aurelia said she stayed against his will, and Mikhail was the type of person to not leave anyone a choice, her or her relatives. Throughout the months after Mikhail's murder, the mother appeared on TV shows and argued the daughter's case and spoke about her experience living with him. She even spoke about her rape by Mikhail 20 years prior. In June 1997, Aurelia gave birth to a son, Sergei, and 2 years later to Christina. During this time, Mikhail regularly beat her. The smallest thing was set him off. 1 minute he would be speaking normally, and the next minute he would be shouting and cursing. One afternoon, she managed to escape the apartment and run to the local police station. Mikhail showed up to the police station and smiled as he listened to her file a report against him. He hit her in front of the duty officers, which turned out to be his friends, and dragged her home. After that, she had lost all hope and believed it is pointless to try to do anything. Sergei also experienced regular beatings. When Sergei was 16 years old, Mikhail chased him out of the home. And a year later, Mikhail lost his temper and pointed a gun to Aurelia's face and said, "I'm going to leave now. And if you're here when I'm back, I will kill you all." Aurelia left and lived with her friend for about 6 weeks in Moscow and then moved in with her mother in Moldova. After about a year, she came back to Moscow to be closer to her children and lived with her friends. However, throughout these years, she hardly got to see her children. Despite all of this history and evidence, in the summer of 2019, the sisters were charged with premeditated murder, sparking an uproar among activists in Russia, which argue that the sisters were in fact victims and not criminals. Hundreds of individuals took to the streets protesting for their release and against their prosecution. Fundraising concerts and theater performances were held to offset their legal fees and calling for passing a law that would help future attacks. The petition now has over 400,000 signatures supporting the sisters. I will link the petition in the box below if you would like to check it out. 2 months after the killing, they were released from custody following an appeal from their lawyer. A psychological assessment was done after the killing and found that Maria was mentally unsound at the time of the crime due to acute stress disorder caused by her father's abuse. The girls lived in isolation and had been suffering from PTSD. However, Maria, Angelina, and Christina faced between 8 to 20 years of prison for what they maintain was an act of self-defense. Sadly, there are no laws protecting the victims of domestic violence in Russia. There was a law passed in 2017 which basically states that the violence against a spouse or child that results in bruising or bleeding, but not broken bones, is punishable by 15 days in prison or a fine of 30,000 rubles, which is 380 pounds or 520 US dollars, if it does not happen more than once a year. After Mikhail's death, his side of the family began a very public feud. Arsen, who was Mikhail's 21-year-old nephew, started touring Moscow's TV studios, defending Mikhail and calling him Papa. On air, he accused Aurelia of being a prostitute and abetting her daughters in the killing. A bit later, Mikhail's mother Lydia and sister Naria launched a suit against Aurelia for claiming that Mikhail raped her because apparently a husband cannot rape his wife. Now, Mikhail's family were going around touring Moscow like previously stated and claiming that they knew that they could live the way they wanted if they got rid of their father. They wanted to delete him from their lives. Arsen said sexual violence and other violence, there was nothing of that. The girls decided to kill their father and they conspired it a while ago. The aunt also claimed that medical tests were conducted as part of the official investigation and confirmed that 2 of the sisters were virgins and the third had a secret boyfriend. That's why she was not a virgin. Right now, Maria, Angelina, and Christina are not in custody, but are banned from using the internet and from communicating with each other, with witnesses, or the press. As of right now, Angelina and Christina are living with relatives and Maria with her mother. Just before the end of 2019, their nighttime curfew was lifted, but all the other rules remain in force. The sisters now only see each other in court under a bailiff's watchful eye, when they gather to hear the judge extend their pre-trial restrictions. At the end of 2019, investigators announced that they were sending the final version of their indictment to the prosecutor's office for trial. Maria, Angelina, and Christina had acted with premeditation, driven by a strong personal vengeance towards their father caused by his protracted physical and sexual abuse. 2 weeks later, the prosecutor's office had issued a statement saying that the investigators should reassess the case and consider reclassifying the sisters' actions as self-defense. Now, killing in self-defense is not a crime, so if the murder charge is dropped, the sisters will be set free. Now, since the summer of 2019, activists had organized dozens of demonstrations in support of the sisters under the I Do Not Want to Die campaign, calling on authorities to reclassify the case around the sisters as self-defense. Now, the prosecutors argued that the killing of the father was premeditated murder since he was asleep and the sisters coordinated their attacks, taking a knife earlier in the morning and a hammer later on from his car, and the motive was revenge. Finally, after a long pre-trial investigation, the case opened up in 2019 in Moscow. The two older sisters, Christina and Angelina, stood trial together, and Maria, who was a minor at the time of the killing, had been deemed mentally unfit to commit murder, was tried separately on the murder charge. At first, public pressure seemed to have turned the case around for the sisters. In January 2020, the prosecutor's office confirmed allegations made by the defense that the sisters had suffered beatings, constant humiliation, threats, and abuse, physical and sexual violence, and that they had developed a defensive reaction. The prosecutors then ordered the investigation committee to reclassify the case from premeditated murder to necessary self-defense. The people of Moscow then were happy that they finally saw the case changing and gave other women hope that are going through domestic abuse. But later on, Victor Grin, the same prosecutor who recommended downgrading the case from premeditated murder to self-defense, confirmed in May 2020 that the premeditated charges would indeed be laid against the sisters, and it would not continue as self-defense, and no explanation was given for that change. This case has gone to the Moscow City Court over 5 times, and it has continuously been postponed. The original trial date was supposed to start on August 2020, but it was postponed because they were unable to select a jury. Then it got postponed to October 5, then again to November 5, then again to December 2nd, then again to January 14, 2021, then again to January 29th, 2021. For various reasons, sometimes one of the jurors had COVID-19, other times the courts were closed because of COVID-19, or they couldn't find a juror to fill a spot for another juror, or at one point, one of the sisters were sick. The sisters are still waiting to go to trial, and I will be following this case closely and will keep you guys updated. Now, here are some stats that I read for domestic abuse in Russia. Some experts say that 80% of the women that are being held in Russian prisons are for murder they committed against a domestic abuser in self-defense. Daria, who is a feminist and activist from Moscow, said that domestic abuse is a reality of life in Russia. We can ignore it, but it affects our lives, even if we've never had to experience it personally. In 2019, a survey conducted by the independent pollster showed that 47% of Russian women and 33% of men felt the actions of the sisters were justified. There has been some backlash against the sisters among the more conservative parts of society in Russia. An association called Men's State, which cites patriarchy and nationalism as its 2 main values, boasts about 150,000 members on social media, organized a campaign called Murderers Behind Bars, insisting that the sisters should not be released. Like I said before, this case has not come to an end yet, and I will be following closely to it. So once I hear about the results, so will you. So what do you think? Should the sisters be charged with murder just because the father was sleeping when they attacked him? Or should it be switched to self-defense because of the PTSD and the acute stress disorder and the years and years of sexual and physical abuse? Mikhail had a history of it. It happened with his wife, his son, and then all three of the sisters. Anyways, guys, this is the end of the Khachaturyan Sisters case. For now, I will be following up with this case. Leave your thoughts down below. If you have any case suggestions, please also add them down below. Please leave a like and subscribe. And until the next case, bye.